There seem to be two extremes of the credit card spectrum. The side with the personal finance space that will tell you credit cards are evil, don't ever use them, cut yours up, throw it away. And then there's the other side that says credit cards are the best thing to happen, it's the best travel hack, you need to get 10 different credit cards. I tend to lean towards they're a good thing if you can use your credit cards like debit cards. Even if I tell you what credit cards I have, it might still be confusing on how to actually optimize the points and use the points. I'll answer a lot of questions that you might have about credit card points today because I definitely didn't know the answers 3 years ago. If you're new here, my name is Alexa. I didn't grow up with money. I paid my way through college. I graduated with $30,000 in debt, and I've increased my net worth by $93,000 in the last 3 years. I've moved to a new city. I'm a first-generation oldest daughter, and I'm bringing all of you with me on my path to financial health. I'll talk through what credit cards I have, what my credit card system is, how I keep track of which cards to use, and how I get the most value out of my points in a way that isn't too overwhelming. I have 4 credit cards, and I'm on a single-player system. One thing you'll hear online is a 2-player system and a 1-player system, and really what that means is that you have 2 people in your house that are sharing money and sharing credit card points, and so you guys can use different credit cards and optimize for points and then use them together. I am on a 1-player system, so I do have to be intentional with my points here. High level, I have 2 cards with annual fees and 2 cards with no annual fees. The 2 without fees are the Chase Freedom Unlimited and Chase Freedom Flex card. The 2 with fees are the Chase Sapphire Preferred and the Capital One Venture X. Just a little disclaimer before I get into what I do and how I make the most out of my credit card points. Obviously, I'm not the inventor of credit cards. I don't know what every single credit card out there is. There are plenty of resources I'll put in the description box from the Nerd Wallet and the Points Guide that will have more in-depth knowledge on what credit cards are good, what credit cards are bad, and kind of what the general consensus is on all of these cards. Most of the information I've gotten about credit cards is from those online resources and as well as a creator that I'll also link in the description box. His name is Daniel Braun. He makes so many videos on credit cards, and he definitely gets a lot of benefit out of those credit cards, so I'll link him in the description box if you want to go learn more about any credit card in depth. The first credit card I ever got was the Chase Freedom Flex card. It has 5% cash back on rotating categories, 3% cash back on dining and drugstore purchases, and then 1% on everything else. The categories change every quarter, so here's a few pictures of what it was this year, just so you can have an idea of what to expect for that 5% cashback category in 2026. The next card I got was the Chase Freedom Unlimited card, and I got this because it has a 1.5% cashback on everything else. It's similar to the Freedom Flex in that it has 3% cashback on dining and drugstore, so it really didn't matter which card you pull out here, but whenever you're not in one of those 5% cashback categories, you should be using the Freedom Unlimited if you only have these 2 cards. The third card that I got was the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, which is an annual fee of $95. The reason that I got this card is because it's part of the Chase Trifecta. I'll explain that a little bit more later. The gist is that you can use the Freedom Flex and Freedom Unlimited cards and transfer them up to the Chase Preferred card and use the travel benefits that come along with the Chase Preferred. Right now they're offering a 75,000 point bonus. I'll link all of these credit cards down in the description box. You do have to spend $5,000 in the first 3 months to get this bonus. That's usually how these credit cards work. However, I think with the holiday season coming up, if you were going to get a credit card now would probably be a great time to actually hit that spend limit. What it does have every year is a $50 annual hotel credit. You'll have to go in and purchase a hotel stay through the Chase portal and pay with the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, and then a credit of $50 will appear on your bank statement. And I have gotten this every single year I've had the card, which I'm going on 3 years now. You can earn 5x points for travel if you purchase it through the Chase portal, 3x points on dining and drugstore, and also food delivery services, so a little bit different than the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited. You earn 2x points on travel that you don't purchase through the Chase portal, and there is a 10% point anniversary bonus. There are a lot of other benefits, but you can go explore that if you go through the link in the description box below. The last card that I have is the Capital One Venture X card. I got this because it is a more luxury travel card, and I do travel quite a bit. This annual fee is $395, which is well worth it the first year. You earn 10x miles on rental cars and hotels that you purchase through the Capital One portal. You'll earn 5x points on flights and vacation rentals through the Capital One portal, and 2x miles on every other purchase. So the 2x miles on every other purchase is also a huge benefit because that's a lot higher than the other credit cards that I mentioned on these catch-all categories. Additionally, you'll get a $300 credit towards travel. You can cover your global entry and TSA pre-check fee, one or the other, not both, but if you get global entry, that is both, and you'll get that every 4 years. There are so many more credits and discounts that you get from this credit card. Again, you can go explore that all on your own or watch a dedicated video that another creator has made. There's a 100,000 bonus mile offer right now on this credit card. I got a 95,000 mile bonus whenever I got this credit card, so it definitely is higher now. You also get 10,000 bonus miles every single year. As I said before, for all of these credit cards, all of the information for them and links to the page will be down in the description box, so please go look at those if you want. And then there are other credit cards listed in the Nerd Wallet and the Points Guy articles. And I'll give one other credit card that I think is good if you're not a traveler at the end of the video. One thing to note if you're going through Chase credit cards is that there is a 5-24 rule. What this rule is that you can't exceed 5 credit cards opened in 24 months. I did think it was lines of credit whenever I was first getting these credit cards, but it's just credit cards. So if you have a loan that you take out, this doesn't count towards the 5 in 24 months rule. But in 2 years, you can't have 5 credit cards open and then get approved for a Chase card. So if you're going to be applying for multiple credit cards, you should do the Chase ones first. There are also dings to your credit score every time you do apply for a credit card because it's a hard inquiry. Advice that I've read from credit card bureaus, and I'll have an article in the description box from Experian, is that you should wait about 6 months in between credit card applications or just hard inquiries in general to not ding your score too much. I knew that I wanted to do the Chase Trifecta situation, so I did the Flex, the Unlimited, and the Preferred all 6 months apart, and I was happy with that setup for a while until I knew I had international travel coming up, and then I went ahead and applied for the Venture X card because there are a lot more benefits for that. In summary, I pay $490 a year for my credit cards. I just threw so many benefits at you. I even gave you a homework assignment and said go look at these all yourself. It would be a terribly long video if I added all of that information here, but we're going to get into my optimization strategy. Let's take a quick glance of my day-to-day spending categories. Groceries, gas and car maintenance, restaurants, my dog, beauty services, streaming services, shopping, and miscellaneous events. Even though that's only 8 categories, I still feel like that's too much for my brain to remember when I also have 4 cards, because if we're doing probability here, 8 times 4, there's 32 combinations possible. That's too many things in my brain to keep track of. So I summarize it even further into 5 categories, so it's more general. Those categories are groceries, shopping of any kind, drugstore, gas and car maintenance, and eating out. And the only reason drugstore is a category is because it earns 3% cash back, which is a higher deal than my 2x miles on my Venture X. On these 5 categories, I use my Venture X unless the Freedom Flex has a 5% cash back rotation. So that's why it's listed second next to the graphics. And then shopping of any kind is the Venture X, again, unless the Freedom Flex has a 5% cash back. So right now, Old Navy is a category, so I'll be buying some Christmas gifts from there, and I will be using that card instead of the Venture X. And then sometimes beauty services and gym memberships are also on 5% cash back, so you just have to keep a lookout for that. Drugstore, I will use the Freedom Unlimited or Freedom Flex because it earns 3% cash back. For gas and car maintenance, I'll use the Venture X unless the Freedom Flex, it has gas as a rotating category for that quarter. And eating out, I will use the Freedom Flex or Unlimited because it is always 3% cash back. What this means is I am using my Venture X unless there's a rotating category or I am at the drugstore and eating out. So really, I'm only keeping track of like 3 cards. Okay, you're probably saying, great, that's so much information, thank you. I figured out what you do, but why is this relevant? Can't I just use one credit card? You can, but I'm going to go through an example of why I think it's important if you have multiple credit cards to know which one to use and why it even benefits you to have multiple credit cards. In 2024, my top 5 spending categories were housing, groceries, my car, miscellaneous, wants and needs, and travel. I know this because I track every single dollar that I spend in my budget template. I do have that in the description box below. I do have a 2026 version in the description box as well, but the 2025 version is on sale for $4.99. I will be taking it down from my stand store at the end of November. I wanted to at least offer the cheaper version and then the updated version, where you can see a huge summary of what you spent that year as you're spending it. And then also at the end of December, it'll be very clear to see where all of your money went. Housing typically can't be charged to a credit card. The Built credit card does change that, and I am considering getting that in 2026, but I'm not doing that right now. They're actually not even accepting new applicants until February 2026. I won't run through every single top spending category that I have with the math that I'm about to show you, but I will run through it with groceries since that was my second highest spend in 2024. What I'm going to do is show you guys, obviously if you have no credit cards, you get no points, no cash back. And then I'll run through if you only spent on the Flex, if you only spent on the Unlimited, if you only spent on the Preferred, you only spent on the Venture X, and then what the optimal combination is, at least for groceries. But it gives you a framework to think about when you're going about what categories to use. On average, I spent $415 a month on groceries in 2024. Every year I've had the Freedom Flex, groceries has been one of the 5% cashback categories for a quarter, so I'm going to safely assume that it will continue to be that way. When we look at that, 5% cashback for one quarter means 3 months out of the year you're earning 5% cashback, and then the other 9 months out of the year you're earning that 1% cashback. The Freedom Unlimited is always 1.5% for groceries, and the Preferred is 1% for groceries. The Venture is 2x miles per dollar spent towards anything. Like I stated a little bit earlier, the Freedom Flex will have 2 calculations, one during the 5% cashback quarter, one for the remainder of the year, and then we'll add those all together and see what the points are there. $415 times 3 months is $1,245. 5% of that is $62.25. At 1 cent per point, you'll multiply the cash value by 100 to get 6,225 points. Now I am going to explain kind of how to do the math by hand. All right, so 1 cent equals 1 point, and $1 is 100 cents. This is going back to unit conversions in chemistry class if you didn't pay attention to that, but I do remember this really well. So $62.25, we'll call that $62.25. We want to convert that to cents. So you'll put the cents on top, the dollar on the bottom. We said 1 cent, 100 cents is in $1, so that's how that works. And then you'll do the same thing. We want to convert cents to points. So points goes on the top and cents goes on the bottom. And we said earlier it is 1 cent per 1 point. And so all you have to do is multiply and divide everything that is there. But when you do that, the units go away. So the dollars are removed, the cents are removed. So now you can safely take your dollars into points and this math will work out. So 62.25 times 100 times 1 over 1 times 1 equals 6,225 over 1. 6,225 divided by 1 is 6,225. And this is the number of points that you get for the first 3 months. And so the same kind of logic works for the remaining 9 months. We'll take 415 times 9, which is $3,735. So $3,735 times 1% is $37.35, which is 3,735 points. An easy way to do this math is to take the percent cashback value, which is 37.35, and move the decimal 2 places to the right, because that is times 100. So in total, only charging groceries to the Flex gets you $99.60 or 9,960 points. The Freedom Unlimited is 1.5% cashback in this category. 415 times 12 months is $4,980. 1.5% of that is $74.70 or 7,470 points. The Sapphire Preferred will be 1% cashback. 1% of $4,980 is $49.80 or 4,980 points. The Venture X is 2x miles per dollar. So this is a little bit different than the math that we just did. It's actually simpler. So $4,980 spent times 2 miles will get you 9,960 miles or $99.60. If you were to put all of your spending on one card, the Freedom Flex and the Venture X are actually tied. There is a 5th option to make this cashback even bigger. You would need to use the Freedom Flex during the quarter that it's 5% cashback, and then use the Venture X credit card the remaining 9 months out of the year. The math for that does change your rewards. We already know that 3 months at 5% on the Freedom Flex would get $62.26 or 6,226 points. When you use the Venture X for 9 months, you have to do the math a little bit differently. 415 times 9 months is $3,735 times 2 miles is 7,470 miles or $74.70. Because these are 2 different ecosystems, I can't necessarily combine the points, but when you look at the cashback value spread across 2 sites, you get $136.95. In summary, the Venture X and the Flex tied at $99.60. The Unlimited was $74.70. The Chase Sapphire Preferred was $49.80. and the Venture X plus the Freedom Flex gives you $136.95. It can be hard to keep track of which cards to use which month, but I do a review every 3 months at the end of the quarter because I'm activating my Freedom Flex credit card for the next cashback categories for the next quarter. So it's just a good time to review what credit cards I'm using for what, just in case something changes. When I'm doing this update, I keep a little tab in my notes app open for credit cards to use, and then I keep track in there. So if I'm ever confused, I'll do that. Honestly, because I'm not putting everything in there by like 20 different buckets and situations, I'm probably not doing the most optimal thing, but I'm doing the most optimal thing for the amount of brain work I'm willing to do. So I'm doing the best options for my general categories. If I am making a larger purchase, so above $100, I will actually open ChatGPT and I'll ask what credit card I should use, and then it tells me which credit card to use for that situation. I'll link a short that I made about ChatGPT and credit card points in the cards. Going into travel and actually redeeming these points, I do travel quite a bit. I am from Texas, so I'll fly back to Texas once a year. Or if I don't have points that I really need to use on flights, so like miles, if I don't really have any miles that I need to use on flights that year, I might buy someone else a flight. I like to be generous and also give to those who might not have the money to be able to do that themselves. Like my grandma, she can't really afford to come see me, but I did buy her a flight once. I bought my mom a flight to come see me. An average cost for a flight when I'm going to Texas is over $200. It's usually between $200 and $400. I try to get a flight anytime it's around $200, and I'll typically use points. But let's see what it's going for right now in November. I typically go sometime in June to go for around my mom's birthday, but it's November, so the flights are really, really expensive, and the Capital One portal actually tells you that. So when I was looking at the Chase and Capital One portals, they're exactly the same right now for a flight to go to Texas. It is $425 for the most basic economy flight, or 42,497 points. I have never spent that many points on a flight to Texas, so you can always get a better deal. Right here you'll see Capital One tells you this is a bad deal, you should wait, which I actually love that. With the Capital One Venture X card, you can say, notify me when the tickets are cheaper, and then it will buy your ticket when it's at a good price based on their spectrum. The further out you buy a ticket, the more expensive it is, but as they're trying to fill the planes, they lower the ticket prices. So if you can be flexible, you should look for flights a month or 2 weeks out, and then those little last minute seats they're trying to fill will actually be a lot cheaper. I'm pretty flexible when I go to Texas, so I have the luxury of doing that, but if you don't, I would say maybe 2 months in advance is probably when you want to get your flight, unless there's a sale going on. So I do like my Capital One card for flights because you can also get a price match guarantee. So if I find a flight that is cheaper than what Capital One presented me, you can actually get money back for that. I haven't tried that yet because I do get pretty cheap flights, but that is an option. And so I'll use my Chase portal things now for the hotels because I have the hotel annual credit, and they have Hyatt as one of their travel partners. Let's take a look at an example of staying at a Hyatt and booking through a Hyatt to see what the difference in the costs are if you were to do it out of pocket through the portal and through transferring points to Hyatt and doing it that way. I'm using a Hyatt in Kansas City just as an example. I picked a random date in the next 2 weeks to be representative of the availability, pretending that we're booking December 9th and checking out December 10th. A single king size bed in the Chase portal is $163 or 16,332 points. That's still kind of expensive in my opinion. Chase charges more because they're getting a cut of the money that you're paying for the room. They are driving traffic to that hotel, so that hotel doesn't have empty rooms, but they're taking a piece of the pie. So that's why it's more expensive. But if you go straight to the Hyatt website, you can see the same exact room on the Hyatt website if you were to pay in cash is $138, which obviously if you're using points, you're not paying with cash, you're paying with points. So that's still a better deal to use the points. But if you're a Hyatt member paying in cash, it's $112. Now, if I say pay in points, this changes things quite a bit. To get one free night at Hyatt, it is 8,000 points, which is $80. So that's a much better deal than any of the cash that you're paying or the point values. You're probably thinking like, how do I do that? Like I have the points sitting in the Chase portal, how do I get them to Hyatt? Well, because they're a transfer partner, you'll just go in and say transfer points to partner in the Chase portal, and let me know if you want a whole video about this so I can show you exactly how to do that. Transfer to partner, you'll put in the amount of points you want to transfer, and then it'll send it to your rewards account on the partner that you're trying to purchase from. So I'll send 8,000 points to my Hyatt account, and then I'll go into Hyatt and log in and then say I want to book one free night, and it'll be 8,000 points instead of 16,332 points that it would have been on the Chase portal for the exact same room. But unfortunately, if you have the Freedom Flex or the Freedom Unlimited, you're not going to get transfer partners, so this wouldn't be an option for you, which is part of the incentive of getting these paid cards, is that you get access to more deals all the time. There's not a cap to it. I mentioned the Chase Trifecta earlier. Let's go back to that. So this is the form of a pyramid where there are 2 cards at the base, and for me that's the Unlimited and the Flex. You can use the Flex when there's 5% cashback categories and the Unlimited for everything else. You'll send those points up to the top card, which is the Chase Sapphire preferred card. So let's say, for example, I have 5,000 points on my Unlimited and 6,000 points on my Flex. I'll send the 6,000 points from the Flex and the 5,000 points from the Unlimited to the preferred, and now you have 11,000 points sitting in your Chase Sapphire preferred rewards account, even though you didn't actually use the card to earn the points. But now you have access to all of the transfer partners and benefits of that paid card. Amex has a similar structure, but I don't have an Amex card, and to be honest, like, the fees scare me a little bit, and I really just haven't looked into the credits to see if it'd be worth it. Like I said, there's Daniel Braun is a creator that I'm attaching in the description box. You can go to his channel. He definitely has videos on the Amex groupings and cards if you want to go learn about Amex. I do travel a lot. It was in my top 5 spending categories. So for me, having a paid credit card that helps with travel is important. And if you are a traveler, I think it is valuable to have one of these cards. At least the preferred is a pretty low cost card that does have a lot of benefits. But I got the Venture X because my salary increased. I have access to lounges with that card. I have a $300 travel credit. There are more miles you can earn because of the 2x miles on everything. I didn't have TSA PreCheck yet or Global Entry, so I went ahead and got Global Entry covered. I knew that I was traveling soon, so I wanted the bonus miles. That's another incentive to get a credit card, is that you get all these bonuses. I travel for work 2 to 4 times a year, so I'm getting points through that. TSA PreCheck helps when I'm traveling for work. I like the access to lounges so that I can go get free breakfast before a work trip or get free dinner before coming back home. And then I also travel 2 to 4 times outside of traveling for work 2 to 4 times a year. So I'm going to the airport anywhere between 4 to 8 times in a year. I would say though, if you're not a traveler, I wouldn't waste your money on a travel card. It's probably not worth it. I've used the $50 hotel credit every year that I've had the card. I already used my $300 credit from my Venture X card. I get free food every time I go to the Kansas City airport. There is a Priority Pass lounge, so with the Venture X, on top of getting access to the Capital One lounges, you're also given a complimentary Priority Pass membership. So this is another set of lounges that are at the airport, and you can go into those. If I have a layover, I try to pick an airport that has a Capital One lounge because I have access to it, and that's a free meal. And I also have time to go sit in the lounge. On my trip to Spain, I'm flying through JFK, and they do have a Capital One lounge, so I'm excited to spend a few hours in that lounge when the time comes. But it's really important to assess what your needs are. If you're not a traveler, just get a credit card with really high cashback values. The Citi Double Cash credit card has no annual fee, and you get 2% unlimited cashback. If you travel a little bit but not a lot, honestly, the Freedom Unlimited is pretty good because you have access to the Chase portal, 5% cashback on any travel that you book through the portal, and it's a $0 annual fee as well. So if you want the setup I have, I recommend getting it in the order that I did, which was the Flex, the Unlimited, the Chase Sapphire Preferred at the top. Wait 6 months in between each of those, and then if you want to take it a step further and you're a traveler, I would get the Venture X last. These hard inquiries do take up 10% of your credit card score, so please wait at least the 6 months in between if you don't want to see a big hit and a big decline in that credit card score. As I said earlier, every card that I talked about is in the description box below, so please go check that out if you are interested. I also linked every article that I read for this video. There are some articles in there about the Built credit card as well. One thing that I've seen other creators do is keep track of their credit card points and cash back as income and put that in there in their budget tracker and say like, okay, I paid this to my credit cards, this is coming out of my checking account, blah, 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 blah. It seems like too much for me, so I just treat all of my credit card transactions like debit card transactions, and all of my income is what I'm allotted to spend in that month on my credit card. So If you want to see that, I'll also link my budget template video that I did for 2025. I'll be doing another one in December for the 2026 budget tracker and just kind of showing how to go through that and how to fill it out and what all of the charts mean exactly. So I hope that this video was helpful and really showed why it's important to have credit cards and how having a credit card can make your life a little bit better, a little bit easier, make travel a little bit cheaper, and also really hone in on the importance of optimizing your credit cards if you have multiple. As always, please leave any questions or comments you have in the comment section below. I love interacting with the community and with everybody that is in the personal finance space and just kind of hearing about things that you guys have done in your life and lessons that you've learned that I can apply to my own life. So please share if you have a minute. I would love to hear and get to meet you. Also, do you guys like when I have all this math in the video and am showing like calculations by hand? Like, was that too much or was that helpful? Please let me know. Give this video a like if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you've seen a few videos of mine, a few shorts, and you're still here and you're still at this point in the video, definitely. And if you want to continue hearing about my path to financial health and learning about the things that I'm learning as I'm going through them. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and as always, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next one.